Hello everyone! Today I wanted to talk about an interesting little thing I recently found. I've been kind of reinventing my studio again because I wasn't really using it, mostly because I had a little bit of issues with the operating system of this thing here. This is a little industrial PC that I bought for $5, but it's pretty great. It's very tiny. It has a lot of I/O and it's built for multimedia. Just build it into my rack and I have all the hardware here that I need. So that's great. The thing is though, it's pretty old hardware, which is fine. Really, it should be fine. The problem is though, you can't run a very heavy modern Windows on it. So the first thing I did, of course, was turn to Linux. Linux has the big advantage over Windows in that it's entirely modular and of course open. So it can be modified to fit any container, if you will. Which is great. It also means though that you're a little bit more busy faffing about and getting things working. If Linux works, it works fantastic, way better than Windows. But if it doesn't, it's a migraine, and I have plenty of migraines already, so please no. I did try two Linux distributions, Ubuntu Studio and AV Linux. Now Ubuntu in general is kind of the more bloated Linux out there, in my opinion anyways. But I did try it out, it worked okay, it wasn't the best. AV Linux is a small distribution, which is made by one guy, I think, which actually worked a lot better. What I wanted was just a very minimal OS that could just do audio recording. That brings me to the problem that Windows has. Windows is not meant to be stripped down and minimized as much as Linux is. It's not open, it's not modular. So, yeah, there's not that much you can do about Windows. Or so I thought. Now, don't get me wrong, there are versions of Windows 10 and also previous versions of Windows 8, Windows 7, even Windows Vista, I think, that are designed for embedded applications, for minimal systems, but those are not available for consumers. You can get it, of course, you can get anything on the internet. You just have to find it. But still, I started thinking, maybe someone did turn Windows into something minimal. And that finally brought me to Tiny 7. Now, this is a Windows 7 distribution. It's a version of Windows 7 which is made and maintained by one guy, which is completely stripped down of all the guff that you don't want or need. Some guff that you may need. Luckily, you can turn it back on. So as a test, I loaded it up in a virtual machine on my desktop PC, I installed Reaper, and well, it just worked. I could record with my little M-Audio audio interface just fine. It's all checked out. It is indeed very stripped down. So I was like, okay, let's try it on this old and rather minimal hardware. Let's see, can Windows be fast, run well on old hardware like that? Now, of course, this is Windows 7. It's a slightly older version of Windows still, but regardless, I mean, Windows 7 is already quite something to run on an old dual core with 3 gigs of RAM, which is not even that good of a RAM either. It actually runs really well. It's super fast. It boots in 10 seconds, which is just as fast as my much more modern desktop. Boots of an SSD, by the way. This is not an SSD, which is also a big difference in terms of booting speed. They put it in the same time, which is really surprising. The install of Windows is 2.5 gigabytes of hard drive space, which is nothing. I mean, most software takes up that space these days. So then there was the RAM usage. Now I'm kind of used to Windows 7 to use 1 1.5 gigs, maybe 2, if it feels like it. This version of Windows 7 uses 300 megabytes, a whopping 300 megabytes of RAM. That's really impressive for for Windows, honestly. So surprisingly, the performance is actually better, which I kind of hate because I really prefer to use Linux. But well, if it works, it works. That being said, I will start with a little disclaimer here. Tiny 7 is not entirely secure. So I have a very minimal use case. But say you do want to use Tiny 7 for like internet browsing, I do recommend turning Windows Defender and Windows Firewall back on. Those things are disabled by default on the Tiny 7 installation. Again, to make it all minimal, I would recommend turning those back on if you're gonna do a lot of internet browsing, if you're gonna be downloading things especially, just for the extra security. But other than that, it just works. TM. Thank you, Todd. Now you might be curious on how this was done. There's actually several programs that allow you to modify a Windows installation disk, or in this case an ISO, to remove certain parts of Windows that you don't want installed. For example, if you don't want the calculator, if you don't want Paint, if you don't want, let's say on Windows 10, you can also do this. You don't want Groove Music, you don't want a Windows Store, you don't want telemetry. Again, that shit should just go away already, because it's really annoying. If you don't want Windows Update, I have Windows Update disabled now, but you can just not have it. It just won't install it. So that's how Tiny 7 was made. I tried to find the Windows 10 version of that, but it's not there yet. I did see some posts of people minimizing Windows 8 like that. Windows 8 being already a little bit older still. Yeah, it's been dissected a lot more already. Windows 10 is still fairly new, and of course still has a lot of updates, which may undo a lot of your removal. Now, as for the software to do this, there's two softwares. One is called NT-Lite, and the other one I forgot. So I'll just put a text here, like right here, which is NT-Lite and the other software. Yeah. Like that. Yeah? Okay. Right there. Thank you, editing me. So yeah, if you want a minimal version of Windows 7, just for audio recording or maybe some minor things, and you have old hardware that you want to reinvigorate for audio recording, be it because you are on a very tight budget, which I can very much relate to, or just because you have this old PC that you're not using, or you are already using it and you want to give it a little bit of an upgrade software-wise, performance-wise, yeah, I can recommend this. And it will be interesting to see how it keeps performing in the coming year. But I think it will be quite fine. I mean, so I've been recording in Reaper 2, all this, with a little microphone right here. I think you can just about see it. For like, okay, 31 minutes now. The memory usage is 378 megabytes. And the CPU usage is actually idling at 0. That is impressive. Why is it 0%? Just check it out, try it out in a VM, see if it's something for you. And if you want to use a newer version of Windows, it's also possible with Windows 8 and Windows 10 to strip them down. Yeah, check it out. It's definitely interesting, and it's probably the closest you get to editing the OS Linux style. See you guys next video. Rock on. Stay metal. Stay healthy. Stay at home, you fucks. And I'll see you guys next video. Bye bye. Oh wow, that's a big bug. Hello, friend. I made a little friend. Bugger. Aww. A bit shy. Why don't you turn away from the camera, you? There we go. Isn't he adorable? Okay, that's enough about our friends. Okay, so I'm just gonna sit here with this guy. Because I still don't know what I'm talking about. He's like vibrating his antennae. Like, boop. Okay, I should probably let him out before I continue.